we back?
I don't know. It should be automatically streaming.
It looks like we're back.
Yeah, we're live. All right.
All right. I will not say the bad words in the first 2 minutes because that's what got us caught up. Now, you were saying about Zelensky.
I was saying before you were saying that my stream was a montage, which by the way it was. So
facts.
So that's fine. Yeah, no, I was saying that Trump had put out on Truth Social a post about Zelensky, basically saying that he had started the war and saying that he had baited the United States into the war, which not really, and then basically said he was a dictator, who's unelected, and all the rest of it.
Correct.
And it seems to have inflamed the Zelensky and also even his opposition into supporting Zelensky.
Everybody's now supporting Zelensky.
And so we were trying to figure out like what's really going on here, whether or not this is some sort of 5D chess kind of move, right? Whether or not he's trying to do something to bolster Russia, or he's trying to put pressure on Zelensky by making it appear that he supports Russia, or what exactly is going on there in terms of the motivation of it. So we're trying to figure out what's going on behind it.
Well, number one, I don't know how the negotiations are going. Trump and his team are going to negotiate with Russia without Ukraine. So it's U.S. negotiating with Russia alone. I think that is problem number one. How can you negotiate on my behalf if I don't tell you that I want you to negotiate on my behalf? Right?
These are reasonable questions.
That's part one. So I think they would need to be at the table.
And it's because I put shit in the title. That's why it was yellow flagged. It wasn't even your fault. It's because I literally put shit in the video title. That's why it's limited to stream. I'm not starting another stream.
No, I don't think you should start another stream.
It
was not my fault.
Okay. I'm still blaming you.
You could change the title, yeah.
No, I could, but why would I do that? That's no fun.
That's true. Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, I think Ukraine has a beef. Now, all right, so just so everybody understands my opinion, even though I'm in shadow mode, my opinion on this whole shit.
The light is on, Nate.
The light is definitely on. It's like blinding me. But I'm sorry. I'm a dark-skinned black man. It's just like that woman who had the white woman who had the black baby. She's got the same issue. But
did you post it already, or was that just for me? Was that an unreleased video?
Well, we can run it. I don't care.
Is that unreleased?
It's unreleased. We can give him a show.
Oh, you guys want to see a Nate video that hasn't been released yet? We can be the first ones to stream it. And then because I will be the first one to stream it, I'm going to copyright claim it and prevent Nate from having it on his channel.
Very interesting.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But hold on, put a 1 in the chat if you want to see it. Let's see if there's any 1 in the chat. 1 in the chat. Now, the video we're talking about is a white woman who went to a fertility clinic and they put a black woman's eggs and sperm into her. So she had a black baby.
So just a little minor medical malpractice. White woman goes to the clinic in order to have a baby. She selects a white person's sperm to use with her white egg, and the baby is decidedly not.
Look at it. Nobody wants to see it. It's like all 2s in the chat. Oh no, those are all 1s. All right. So hold on. Let me do this. Before we do this, I'm gonna put a community post on my channel so people could know that we know. So go ahead, talk to the people. Let them know what's up.
Yeah. No. So the child, the born, is black. And I have to. And the news reports. The news reports, and I made a point of this because I've seen it already. The news reports, when they were talking about the woman, said that the egg, or it was the clinic, I think, used the term initially. They said that the egg was accidentally transferred to the white woman. I'm like, I take exception to the word transferred being used to describe this. That is a very soft word choice for this situation. Oh, the egg was merely transferred to the wrong place. Oh, no problem. We just transfer it back, right? We can roll it back.
Oh my God.
No problem.
Yeah, we can
roll it back. Roll back this transaction. Okay, no problem. That sounds good.
Oh my God. All right, so I just posted it on my community tab. So now hopefully they can see it. All right, so now let's do it. So he's gonna run the video, and we're gonna do our commentary on the video. Now remember, this video is totally unreleased. No one's seen it yet. I was supposed to release it tomorrow morning with an ad, but you guys are gonna get to see it free without the ad. So here we go.
Okay, yeah. So if we play the audio through here, they might hear the audio twice. We'll just have to keep the audio short or some. I'm not sure what we're gonna do. You may get echoey audio, but that's okay. You may get echoey audio, but we'll make it work.
Oh, you're gonna play it through the thing. All right.
Well, what's the only other alternative is to play it through the earphones. And
no, you can mute it. We can play it through the earphones. You take one and I take one. But
we can share earphones like we're girls.
That's right.
On a bus.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
No, the other way around, I think, right?
Yeah. There it is. Even though it's like I can light this. It's like a fucking candle. So much earwax on it. What the fuck is going on?
Shut up. I have earwax issues. Shut up.
Here we go.
Okay, hold on. It'd be my.
Remember, I sent you the link.
I know you did.
Oh, you go to history. Go to history.
I'm going to history.
Go to history.
It's fine. All right.
Elon Musk is at CPAC. He's like totally all in. All right, there it is.
All right. Oh yeah. Okay.
You gotta turn that up.
I know what I'm working on it.
All right, work on it. You got it.
I have to make the margins look nice. I have to do all kinds of things for your stupid video.
I'm saying, these videos get hundreds of thousands of views, so it can't be that bad. That Rachel Maddow story blew up. It got like 700,000 views. It was fucking insane. Oops. Yeah, it's 2 minutes in. No, it doesn't matter. You don't put the word SHIT.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's all good. All right, let's listen to this story. This is fun.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of figure out what happened. There's not a long list of possibilities here. It's a pretty short list. What happened? Let me think. What could it possibly be? You can't hear it? Oh, that's right, because I changed the audio source. I changed the audio source for the desktop audio, and then I forgot to change it back for you guys. I am just that good. I'm just that good a streamer.
This woman goes into a hospital and gets fertility treatment so she can have a baby. She goes to a hospital, they implant the eggs, and 9 months later, a baby pops out. Now, to her shock, the baby's black. She asked the people at the hospital what happened, and they accidentally put the wrong eggs into her body.
Oopsies.
So she's suing.
Now this is obviously a classic med-mal suit, right?
Yeah, no.
Right.
I mean, that's about as med-mal as it gets. my opening argument is, seriously?
Yeah,
really?
Look at the woman, look at the baby. You know?
Yeah. Here's a picture of the woman, here's a picture of the baby. Can we just get money now?
Now, also, I want you guys to pay attention. The media doesn't want to say she's having a black baby. The baby happens to be black. They want to say things like, what? The baby's complexion happens to be dark. It's like Kurt, like me and Kurt. Like, no. Nate's complexion is a little darker than Kurt, obviously.
A little darker.
A little
darker. A little darker.
All right, this is Christina Murray. She's a 38-year-old wedding photographer based in Savannah, Georgia. Now, prior to becoming a photographer, she worked 10 years as a bedside nurse. Now, Christina went to Coastal Fertility Specialists, which operates...
They're not that specialized.
Yeah, they're not
very good at it.
Clinics in Georgia and South Carolina.
Coastal Fertility Specialists had more than 100 families come out today to Alhambra Hall in Mount Pleasant for a reunion party. These families all share one thing in common, and that is that they all have a child that was brought into this world as a result of fertility treatments. Live 5's Carly Baker shares the story.
The medical director of Coastal Fertility Specialists, Dr. John Schnorr, says that the families that came...
Dr. Don Schnorr?
Dr. John Schnorr.
Is he, though? Is he?
Dr. Don Shaw.
Is he, though?
Out today, he has been with through their highs and lows on their pregnancy journey. He says that 1 in every 7 couples experience infertility, and today was all about celebrating these couples' success stories of getting pregnant.
So as you see, Coastal Fertility Specialists had a reputation of being one of the best in fertility treatments, and
yeah, we're like 99.99% accurate, man.
We do our jobs. They do their jobs.
Yeah.
We're going to see how well they do their jobs in a second.
As part of our baby guarantee. Some exclusions may apply.
Christina said, hey, this is the place I want to go. So Christina got the money together and went to the clinic. Now, the first thing she had to do was select a sperm donor. Now, even though the egg would be hers, the sperm could be from a black guy, a white guy, a Native American. It didn't matter. It was totally up to her. So she chose someone who looked like her, a white guy with dirty blonde hair and blue eyes. So now, with the sperm donor picked, her eggs were fertilized and implanted into her body.
Huzzah! Huzzah! Right? we've combined sperm and egg and put it in her body. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
Her eggs from a white woman, the sperm of a white male with dirty blonde hair and blue eyes. Things are looking up, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Here is Christina's lawyer explaining it.
Excuse me. Christina went to Coastal Fertility Specialists for IVF services to start her family. She actually chose the clinic in part because of its reassuring messages.
Why can't she just go to a bar like a normal person?
That's right. Would you give her sperm injections so she can have her baby?
Well, do even better for that, because it's like that one case that you covered on your channel where that guy was tricking women into sleeping with him, saying he was a doctor.
That was true.
And they were paying him $5,000 a shot. So it's like, yeah, I mean, this is IVF treatment, so I can bill her. I'll just undercut the clinic's rate, right?
That's right. That's right.
So
What
I'll do it for half as much, and I can have better assurances on the race of the baby. I think should work out great.
She'll come to your house every day. You just got to come here for a week straight and get as much semen out of me as possible. That would work.
No problem. No problem.
You'll be happy to do it. You're doing it for her.
Yeah, that's it.
On its website, including, quote, "There is no safer place for your embryos,"
There might be some safer places for your embryos. There might be safer places.
Yeah, there may be a safer place.
unquote. Christina selected a sperm donor who resembled her. He was white with dirty blonde hair and blue eyes. The next several months for Christina were grueling. They were filled with medical tests, drugs to stimulate ovulation, injections, follow-up exams, and blood tests. Christina sometimes had to give herself multiple injections per day. The egg retrieval surgery was painful.
You did that for free. You gave her multiple injections per day for free.
There you go, ma'am.
She wouldn't have to pay you.
No, that's right, ma'am. She could have just put an ad out on Craigslist.
It'd have been great.
There's entire Reddits for this. You know, you could. I think it's r/justababy. You can go out there and say, I just want a donor, and you can set up a hookup. No problem, man.
It'd be wonderful.
There's a Reddit for everything. It's great.
The physically and emotionally demanding process was to allow Christina's retrieved eggs to be used with the donor's sperm to create her embryos. In May 2023, Coastal Fertility Specialists transferred an embryo to Christina.
Transferred.
Here it is.
Just a little transfer.
Take it from here. Give it to you.
Uh-huh.
Your own.
So
embryo.
Christina got pregnant, and 9 months later, a baby came out. But there was a problem.
Christina Murray was finally living her lifelong dream of being a mother.
He was beautiful and perfect, but
He was beautiful and perfect.
But
Everything that comes after before the but
yeah.
is meaningless. It's the but. The but is what matters.
it was also very clear that something was wrong.
After a grueling round of
What could have been
IVF
wrong?
and 9 months of pregnancy, Murray, a white woman using a white sperm donor, gave birth in late 2023 to a baby boy with a much darker complexion.
Just a much darker complexion.
Much darker complexion.
The baby wasn't black. He just had a much darker complexion.
Much darker complexion.
Yes.
Why is the media afraid to say black here? I don't quite understand. They weren't afraid to say it was a white woman with a white sperm donor, but for some reason they don't want to say the baby's black.
Yeah.
It's just a baby with a much darker complexion of some unclear race.
happens not to be white. That's what I think they're saying.
Okay.
My son's skin tone didn't match mine, but he was still my son.
His skin tone
What
didn't
should have
match
been
mine.
a joyful first few months bonding with her son, who she loved and wanted to raise, was punctuated by constant fear and uncertainty.
I didn't know whether it was a sperm mix-up or whether he was someone else's.
Murray took a DNA test that confirmed her baby wasn't hers biologically.
Yeah, so it turned out to not even be her egg. So
Not her egg, not her sperm. It's everything. Just seemed to be. They literally took somebody else's baby and put it in her body. So she's a surrogate now, right? She's essentially a surrogate.
she's a baby hijacker.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me like she just got into the wrong car, Nate. You know, she's like old school, like 1970s when those keys were a little bit, you know, the keys from one car would open another car and start right.
Yes, yes.
Old school keys where they're not really cut very well. So she just got into the wrong car. Her key turned the ignition. She drove off, not even realizing it wasn't her car. Just a little mistake. No biggie.
No,
just a little mistake. Little ignition error.
And the other car had a darkened complexion.
Yeah. Little, it was a black car instead of white.
Just a darker complexion.
The clinic she'd used, Coastal Fertility Specialists, eventually determined that they'd mistakenly implanted another couple's embryo in Murray.
I like that. They eventually determined they implanted another couple's embryo.
You couldn't just see that, right?
I determined that instantly. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I'm not really sure it required much advanced medical knowledge. What could possibly have happened here? What could possibly have occurred? It's such a mystery. I need many years of medical expertise to clarify this for me. Stop pulling out my ear thing. Stop pulling out my ear thing.
We can move this down. Oh no, you can't move this down. Sorry, yeah,
So
I'm
now
moving too much.
there's a major legal issue that just happened. See, Christina is not the biological mother to that baby. She essentially is what's known as a surrogate. The parents to that black child now want their child back. They're saying, hey, that's our baby biologically. So Christina, who happens not to be biologically related to the baby she just gave birth to, had to turn the baby over after the parents sued.
Christina is a Caucasian woman who chose a sperm donor with a similar appearance. The baby she delivered was African American.
An at-home DNA test result that January confirmed what Christina suspected. The baby was not hers. On February,
I don't know. It's like confirmed what she suspected. She gave birth to a black baby. There's no suspecting here that the baby's not mine, right? It's like, it's obviously not my baby. No? Like it confirmed. Like there was no, it didn't need to confirm it. It was like, it's obvious. I just need it for court now.
Yeah.
February 5th, Christina's lawyers reached out to the fertility clinic, Coastal Fertility Specialists, informing them of the mix-up.
And just let them know, what the results were.
I got the wrong item. You shipped me the wrong item.
Yeah.
Now,
like Amazon.
Now, if a common carrier delivers an item marked to you that you didn't order, you get to keep it. It's in the UCC.
Yeah.
Right. So because so you get to keep anything. So she was merely transferred the wrong item. So she just gets to keep the baby because it was delivered to her. Right. That's how that works.
It doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
Our baby's not covered by the UCC.
Nah. Remember, it's family law, state law.
No,
surrogates.
Right.
Yes,
but the sovereign citizens tell me everything's covered by the UCC.
They're wrong.
Okay.
Wrong.
All right.
UCC is Uniform Commercial Code for those who don't know.
Yeah.
And asked for answers.
In March, Coastal Fertility informs the other couple their embryo was transferred to.
There's that word again, transferred.
Yeah, transferred. They transferred it.
Transferred. Lol.
Christina, that family taking legal action to obtain custody. In a family court hearing that May, Christina decides to give up the baby voluntarily.
It's like the
5
happiest
months.
day of their life. It's like the worst day of mine. So like everyone's happy and joyous, and then there's me losing my entire life.
So now Christina's out of thousands of dollars. She had to go through 9 months of pregnancy, didn't even get to keep the baby.
That is a bad deal, man. That's a bad deal. 9 months of pregnancy, you don't even get to keep the baby.
Didn't even get to keep the baby.
That's rough.
That's pretty tough.
That's rough. That's just a little mix-up, though.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
What is the adverse possession on a baby?
On a baby.
Wait a second. No, I think there was a constitutional amendment about that. You can't do that anymore.
Can't do that, yeah. This is like this is Solomon from the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Cut the baby in half.
Yeah.
Split the baby.
and they put a black person's baby into this white woman's uterus. So Christina did the only logical thing you can do, which is sue the clinic.
Now Christina is suing Coastal Fertility Specialists in a complaint filed in a Georgia court.
Errors like this should never occur in a fertility clinic.
One would think.
This is the cardinal sin.
The actions of
It's a cardinal sin. I don't know if it's the cardinal sin.
That's true. It's,
Well,
it's definitely a cardinal. Well, if you're
It could be the doctor using his own sperm. That's a classic.
Yes. But that's that's a classic. What is it? There was one in Texas. I think it was like 20-something women where he was like, yeah, we'll give you the best sperm because they all had the same genetic disorder. It was crazy.
have come very close to destroying me, have left irreparable damage to my soul, and ultimately left me questioning whether I should be a mom or not.
So now this is just such a weird situation because Christina did nothing wrong. This was literally all in the hospital. The black family is probably going to sue the hospital. Christina is obviously suing the hospital. But what does the hospital say about what has happened? Because this is the night.
Okay, guys, hospital. All right, here's your crisis PR moment. You accidentally transferred a black baby into a white woman's uterus. Make a statement that's going to make it all okay. Go.
This is gonna
Me a scenario. Well, here's what they said.
In a statement, Coastal Fertility Specialist says in part it deeply regrets the distress caused by an unprecedented error.
Well, that satiates me, man.
deeply.
That's it. The deeply regrets.
Deeply regret.
Every concern I had is just completely satiated. I think we can call this closed. They regret it, man.
We deeply regret.
I wonder if they offered her a gift card. Maybe next IVF treatment is on us. That covers it, right? That makes it all better, right? Lol.
Oh my God.
Adding this was an isolated event with no further patients affected.
How do you know that? How do you know no other patients have been affected? How are you sure about that?
That's true. That
How do you know that?
I'm assuming they're trying to parse words here, right? In this particular case, no other patients were affected. But how do you, like, for instance, now I'm going to ask you guys in the chat. Place a 1. If you went to this fertility clinic and you had a baby, would you get a DNA test to make sure the baby was biologically yours? Now, I would do it. So that's the 1. Press a 1 if you would actually get the DNA test. If you went and you trust that this was an isolated incident, put 2. Now, I personally am putting 1. Because if I had a baby from this fertility clinic, I want to know. I need
Especially
to know
this
sure.
fertility clinic. Like if I've ever been a patient at this hospital, I want to double check that, man.
Oh yeah, you got to know.
I want to double check that.
I need to know.
How many more are we going to undo, man? This is going to be fun. How do we wind all that back? That's going to be fun and exciting.
It's like a bad spades hand. I got 1 in a possible. This is a possible. Like no, I need to know for sure.
Uh-huh.
The same day this error was discovered, we immediately conducted an in-depth review and put additional safeguards in place to further protect patients and to ensure that such an incident does not happen again.
Now, that doesn't really work for me because I want to know, weren't you in your own heads satisfied that your previous safeguards were sufficient? Now, one would think the answer was yes, right? That's why they were the safeguards, right? Mm-hmm. So we had a policy in place because we thought that would be sufficient, right? So I'm not sure that you guys are necessarily the best judge of what safeguards will ensure this didn't happen again, because the safeguards you presumably put in place in the first place to presume it didn't happen in the first place didn't preclude it. So like
pretty BS, yeah.
So like, what are these new exciting measures? Why weren't they in place the first time? Why are you confident in these new exciting measures when you were presumably confident in the old exciting measures, and so forth and so on?
Which all makes sense.
Again.
Now, first, this hospital or clinic or whatever we're going to call it should be forced to pay this woman millions of dollars. This is unfair by all means. And I believe they should also have to pay that black family some money. And if I got fertility treatment at this particular clinic, I would be getting DNA tests on my kids to make sure that those kids are my kids. I don't think this is the first time they've probably ever done this. I think this is the first time it's gotten caught because it was probably just so obvious. This white woman is having a dark-skinned black African baby. And let's really think about what this woman went through. She went through IVF, which is painful and very, very complicated and expensive. Then she goes through 9 months of pregnancy, delivers the baby. Then she takes care of the baby for what, 6 or 7 months before being sued and having to pay legal fees to go into court.
Where is her egg?
Riverdale goes over it. Remember that's the question. You got to finish watching the video.
So
They talk
ultimately
about her
have
eggs.
to
We're
give
almost
the
at end.
baby away to another family. Emotionally devastated, financially wrecked.
Maybe they're selling it at the convenience store. I hear the price of eggs went real up.
It's crazy. Yeah,
No, $1 an egg. Maybe they stole her egg and it's for sale at Kroger.
We're only a month in, so I can't blame Trump for the price of eggs. But my God, it's been up 50% in 1 week. It's freaking crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
How does this woman not get $1 million? The company, this clinic, should not be asking if this woman's going to get paid. The only question is how much.
Yep.
And that's my question to you. How much would you award this woman for her issues? I'm at about $10 million.
Sounds plausible.
Yeah, I'm at about 10 million. What do you guys think? You guys think 10 million? I think 10 million is just kind of the starting point, right? It's like she's the most, because don't forget, you're talking about pain and suffering.
Yeah.
There's a 9 months of pregnancy. It's a lot of pain and suffering, bro. And then have the baby ripped from you and give to the biological parent, and yeah, it's a lot of pain and suffering here.
Because the emotional harm, the emotional impact is unbelievable. But I may be asking for too much. This is why I toss it to you. Let me know how you feel about this story in the comment section. I feel sorry
like
for
Laura
both
gonna
these
get paid.
families, and I believe that this IVF treatment needs to be regulated so things like this don't happen again. Matter of fact, just so everybody understands, this particular incident happened in Georgia, but there was one that happened in California very similar to this.
Welcome back to CBS Mornings. A married couple is suing a fertility clinic and its owner over an IVF mix-up that led 2 women to give birth to the other person's baby.
Well, in that situation, that's not that big a deal, right? Because if both women give birth to the other person's baby, then just all we have to do is swap them back. No fuss, right? Everyone's good.
I'm giving birth to somebody else's baby. I'm taking care of that baby.
So all you have to do is do an exchange, a one-for-one exchange. We don't need to get the law into this. No lawsuits, no problem, right? That makes it all better, right?
I'm suing.
That makes it all better. You're still suing?
I'm suing.
You're still suing? Oh, okay.
This woman had my baby, yeah, and I'm forced me to have her baby. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We're suing.
I just thought maybe it was not what. No. Maybe it didn't matter who you actually gave birth to.
We got to get paid.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
Another California case that was quite unbelievable. You guys may have heard about it, involving 2 couples that in another fertility clinic mix-up ended up having each other's biological children, raised them unknowingly for a few months until they discovered it.
Raised them a couple of months is the piece you got to pay for.
Yeah, I love Lone Star Living says that isn't true. Apparently, it is not possible for me to lay the sarcasm on thick enough. Apparently, there is no way for me to lay the sarcasm on thick enough. No shit. Yeah. No shit, it isn't true.
And then they ended up swapping the infants back. And by the way, a lot of you are wondering what happened to Chris.
That feels like a bad porn title.
Yeah, we had babies.
Baby swap.
That must have been tough though, because don't forget you've raised this baby for 6-7 months, and now you got to give it over. That'd be tough. And then you get a new baby back, and it may be easy for the babies because it's not like they know. But my God, that must be a tough. Like if I'm the father of that baby, that's a tough. That's just tough.
It makes for a great story for an icebreaker though.
Yeah.
When those babies grow up though, so that's the story's worth something.
Like you were raised by some other parents 4 months ago. Though it was a Hispanic couple. We didn't know.
Dina's embryos. I asked her about that, and she said that she's not sure if they're being frozen and stored in that fertility clinic or if perhaps they've been transferred to another patient.
There's that word transferred again. So where are the eggs? We're not sure.
Even
after the investigation, we're not sure what happened to the eggs. Oh, that's good news.
If you guys didn't hear that, her eggs, right? Because don't forget, they were supposed to be putting sperm in her eggs. They don't know where her eggs are at. Her eggs could be given to somebody else, which is also insane.
Mystery eggs.
They just take eggs and just says the eggs for you. We don't care. Eggs for everybody.
It's in a mystery box somewhere.
Savannah.
So this woman's biological child could be out there with a whole nother family, and she doesn't know. This is insane stuff. But let me know how you feel about this story in the comments section. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is...
Yeah, well, egg hunt indeed. It is coming up on Easter. All we need to do is get some kids, do a little egg hunt. No problem.
You're freaking crazy. Egg hunt. Really? Egg hunt?
Yeah, no, so the one kid looks for the blue egg, one kid looks for the pink egg. The kid who gets the golden egg wins the prize.
This is really a black egg, a white egg. But you know what? It's funny. So I don't know. I think, yeah, as a lawyer, this case is a lawyer's dream, especially a civil lawyer. It's a dream. It's a dream case. Why not?
Write me a big check.
Yeah, just like how much are you going to cut? It's like literally you got med mal for sure, right? You implanted the wrong baby in Miami, right?
Breach of contract.
Breach of contract.
Negligent infliction of emotional distress.
That's for sure. That's definite. And you even have NIED if you want to go for that, but I think you get intentional because you got negligent infliction of emotional distress too.
I don't think you can do IID, but you got negligent, so that's easy enough. Yeah,
negligent.
You get any ID.
Well, if you can prove that they intentionally because you'd have to prove that somebody intentionally did that. So, but you have NID.
If you can prove it intentionally, sure, you got IID, but I doubt that's what happened.
Negligent
that'd be great. If that pans out, though, that'd make the damages go up.
No, because don't forget you had
$1 billion.
Well, don't you had the hot? Remember, I don't know if you know heard the case about the nurse in the hospital who was switching babies on purpose just for fun. She did like 5,000 babies.
I missed that story.
You go 5,000 babies switched at birth. Put a search on YouTube. 5,000 babies switched at birth. A black nurse was doing that to babies. She just was like, "Hey, these babies look similar. Let me switch them." And they believe she did 5,000 babies, which is insane. That was my next story. There it is. Switch 5,000 babies at birth. ABC.
What the fuck?
You see, guys. That's why you guys watch the Nate the Lawyer channel, because I find the craziest stories. You gotta listen to this one. You gotta listen to We're gonna listen to the story. He's like, he's wearing 5,000 babies.
Tonight's Fact or Fiction is brought to you by America's Finest Carpet.
In tonight's Fact or Fiction, we're looking into a stunning story that made the rounds last month. A newspaper in Zambia reported that this nurse on her deathbed admitted she swapped close to 5,000 babies and gave them to the wrong parents between 1983 and 1995. According to the article, she did it for fun and was now asking for forgiveness. But this whole thing is fiction. The hospital in question actually investigated it and found there was never a nurse with that name. Also, the picture that allegedly showed the woman has been...
That's what they say. In Zambia. The hospital says, no, it didn't happen.
used in other stories and blogs, claiming to be a totally different person.
So, I don't know.
I think Nate is spreading fake news is what I think is happening. I think Nate's. Why can't you just be like a normal fucked up nurse and be the angel of death? Like
the angel of death and just kill the babies?
Why can't it just be like a normal nurse with mental problems and just kill people?
Oh, so question, because we were debating this earlier, right? Would you? All right, so you're the governor of New York.
Okay.
There's no, because in New York, now for those of you who don't know, New York law has a very unique situation where you can't recall any of the public officials. The only person who could do that is the governor of New York.
Okay.
That's the only person that can, and the only thing they can do, they can either suspend or remove them. And then there has to be a special election in 80 days. So now you're the governor of New York. Mayor Adams. He's with Trump, got the charges. They say we're going to pull the charges as long as he does the immigration thing. Do you remove him from office?
Well, I mean, it's purely politics. I mean, there's no legal analysis in here. It's a political analysis.
Yes, but it's simply, well, the legal analysis would be be her actually doing it because it's procedural. But the political analysis is do you believe that ethically? Well, I would say this: ethically, is the mayor compromised? Because he has this personal, because he's facing like 40 years in prison. So now Trump says, as long as you do what I tell you to do publicly. So just so everybody understands my take on this, let's say I'm the governor of New York or the mayor of New York City. And I get caught doing some crime, whatever crime that is. If that's the case, if I am caught doing some crime, generally, if they give me community service, I would have to do that personally, right? I would have to go and sweep the park or whatever they told me to do. But now since I'm the mayor and they say, well, your punishment is to force other people to do stuff. So my punishment is to force the police officers to arrest illegal immigrants, to force the parks people to clean up the parks. That isn't punishment for me. That's punishment for the city. That essentially makes me tainted. So the argument against Mayor Adams is that Mayor Adams, because the Trump administration has these charges held over him, is politically compromised. And because he's politically compromised, is he running the city based on what's best for the citizens, or is he running the city based on what's best for Adams? What do you think?
Well, that's a pretty cogent argument for the governor, but as to whether or not to do it, it's purely politics. So I don't know the New York politics well enough to comment about whether or not it would be a good idea for the governor to do that.
Well, I did a video on it. It lays out all the details, but it's interesting because if I was the governor, I would pull him. I'm gonna pull him. Easy. He's compromised. He's 100% compromised.
Yeah.
40 years in jail or help Trump deport illegal immigrants. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of him helping Trump deport the illegal immigrants. Yeah. But he's compromised. He's got no choice. And on top of that, the border czar, Tom Homan, is on Fox News telling him, if he doesn't follow our agreement, I'm going to be in his office and I'm going to be in his behind, in his ass to make sure. Yeah. He's compromised. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a legitimate basis. And of course, you recently got into a good argument with our mutual friend, Good Logic.
Yeah, but
and also Danny. Didn't you get into a fight with Danny too?
Yeah. So Joe's argument is that
who'd you pick a fight with exactly?
It was Joe and Joe. It was Joe I got into the fight with, but Danny, I think Danny was just there. So the argument that they were making. So first they said the charges were bogus, corrupt, politically motivated, tainted charges. That's what they all admitted. So then they said it was okay to use those bogus, fake, tainted charges to hold over the mayor's head to force him to do what they want to do politically. I said that's the highest form of corruption. Yeah. If you know the charges are fake and corrupt, then making any deal based on dropping those fake and corrupt charges is in itself corrupt. If you drop the charges with prejudice, then there's no issue. But if you drop the charges and say, I'm going to hold them over your head and can bring them back, and if I believe the charges are corrupt, that means I'm corrupt.
Well, it's actually slightly worse than that, because if I know that those charges are illegitimate and I'm holding them over you, that's just extortion at that point, because I don't have any legitimate state power because I know they're illegitimate. Right. Yeah. So if I have legitimate charges and I'm like, do I bring them or not? Right. And I come to you and I say, Nate, I have you on some criminal charges, but if you do X, Y, Z, I'll make the charges go away. Then we're into a Juicy Smollett situation maybe, or something else, but a different situation. But if I know the charges are illegitimate, then I don't actually have a legal basis. And so I'm just now extorting you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's how I perceived what was happening. I said, this is obviously legal extortion. So my position is, if we all agree the charges are bogus, fake, tainted, as they said, then there's no way you can. So Joe says that it's not a quid pro quo. Now, quid pro quo means this for that. Now, there's a difference between
quid pro quo would really only work if they were legitimate charges, because then arguably I'm exchanging something of value for something of value, right?
Yes.
If the charges are legitimate and I'm like, I'll drop these charges in exchange for you getting tough on immigration, right? Then arguably at that point, we're both exchanging something. We both have the power to do.
Correct.
And we're both exchanging something of value.
That's a quid pro quo.
And so that's quid pro quo. But so it depends if whether or not you think the charges are illegitimate. If you think the charges are illegitimate, I wouldn't describe it as quid pro quo because there's actually in that situation no quo.
It's a corruption. It's corrupt. It's corruption.
There's actually no quo because
Yeah.
I'm not giving. I don't actually have anything because they're illegitimate. I'm not actually offering. It's just I'm going to nice thing you have here. Shame if anything would happen to it, right?
Well, I think it is a quid pro quo, but it's a corrupt quid pro quo. I think that's the distinction. I think quid pro quo essentially means bargain for exchange. I'm exchanging something with you for value, right? A bargain for exchange. This for that. But now you have corrupt quid pro quos, which are illegal, and then you have legal quid pro quos. Like a plea agreement would be a form of a legal quid pro quo, right? This for that. I'm exchanging your freedom for you doing community service, for instance. Quid pro quo is essentially just that's what it is. So Joe wants to limit the term quid pro quo to you have to receive a personal benefit. Now, the argument that we got into is that if you look at any dictionary, any encyclopedia, there's never a reference to personal benefit. And so I said Joe was essentially lying to the audience. I said Joe was making that up because he was trying to influence, to run a narrative, to say that it has to be. So we took that. So I took the whole thing and ran it in Gronk. And because Joe said run it in Gronk. And this is what Gronk said. It said Joe's assertion that this is not corrupt seems to hinge on the idea that Trump isn't gaining personally. No cash, no votes, etc. But corruption isn't solely about personal enrichment. It's about subverting the legal system for political ends. Here, the DOJ's action of suspending charges without merit, without meritorious evaluation to gain political cooperation suggests an abuse of prosecutorial discretion for political gain. Because in a Justice Department memo, it says specifically, we never even looked at the charges. We didn't look, we didn't evaluate, we didn't see the strength of the case. We are just holding him over his head and making sure he agrees with us. So it says in that particular case, that is corruption by definition. So Gronk refuted Joe because Joe was trying to narrow quid pro quo to only mean political gain. So Gronk said it, like all the AI said it. It said Joe lost. So what Joe did, Joe went into Gronk, and instead of putting the whole transcript and saying what happened, Joe just asked it specific questions to get it to say, I won. And then I won. See, Gronk says I won. But so I didn't even realize it until somebody on Twitter was like, hey, if you look at his link, he never put the full transcript. He just asked it questions until eventually it said, hey, Joe is right, Nate's wrong. I was like, oh, that's fucking dirtbag. But it was very deceptive. But I do want to give some credit to Joe. I assume he was doing it as a joke, like, hey, let me do it as a joke. Gronk said I won, that type of thing. So I thought it was that. But I wanted to make sure everybody understood that that's what happened. He didn't put the transcript in. He actually he colored it. Now, myself and Eric the other day, we did put the full transcript and we put it in all the different AIs. And most of them said that I won the debate because obviously corrupt charges, if you hold the corrupt charges against somebody's head, it just doesn't make sense that that's not corruption. But Gronk kept going back and forth. It kept saying Joe's right, Nate's right, Joe's right, Nate's right. So then when we put the part, so I took that part where Gronk said specifically, this is a quid pro quo because Joe's reasoning about it happened to be personal is wrong. As soon as you put that in, every single AI universally said his logic is wrong, his logic is dumb, it doesn't make any sense. And essentially anybody who agrees with his logic isn't themselves advancing corruption. So that's the argument that we had. Now it's weird because I personally, as an attorney, attorneys we have to deal kind of with two things. We have to deal with the ethical piece of it and the legal piece of it. So we can do things that are totally legal, but are unethical, and we can still be disbarred. For instance, sleep with your client. Sleep with my client, if it's consensual, I can do it, right? There's nothing illegal about it.
Yeah.
Right? So legal and ethics is different. And I think, So Joe and Danny, which they were arguing the legal portion of it, that the Justice Department can dismiss the charges with prejudice, which is fine. I'm saying yes, that's legal. But I'm saying the ethics of it is bad, is because if they're dismissing the charges, holding over someone's head, and they believe the charges are themselves corrupt and tainted and all that, that's the corruption. That's the unethical piece of it. And to be honest with you, it's probably even illegal. Yeah. But again, it's that. So that's the big. So we're going to be arguing tomorrow, Friday. But that's the big argument. And one thing I'll even mention is that if you go on X and you see Joe's responses, none of his responses directly answer or directly address any of the points I made. It just says kind of Joe's right. But my responses literally say, Joe, you're wrong here, you're wrong here, you're wrong here, you're wrong here. Like it answers the question. So at the end of the day, this comes down to, now I do understand. There are a lot of Trump supporters out there who Trump can do absolutely no wrong. He can kill a person in cold blood. He can do whatever, and he's doing wrong. And I understand. I understand there are people who are those type of fans. But I also want to make it very clear that I personally agree with most of the stuff he's doing now. I'm the banning men from women's sports. That's a great thing. Doge, I love Doge. I love 99% of the stuff that he's doing. I honestly love. But I'm someone who's not a ball washer. If you're holding corrupt charges over someone,
you promised to wash my balls.
Not tonight. But but if that does happen, if you are holding corrupt charges to get them to do your political ends, that's corruption. It is corruption. Now, I understand some of the Trump supporters not going to like me saying that. Nate's got TDS. But I can like everything else he's doing, but I can say this is corruption. It just is. Now, Trump has even come out and said he didn't tell the DOJ to do that, blah, blah, blah. If that's true, then he's not corrupt. It's the people who's doing it on his behalf that's corrupt. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, if they believe that they're illegitimate charges, then they should be dismissed with prejudice.
Yeah.
There's no point in keeping them open if you believe they're illegitimate. Which, incidentally, as a prosecutor, would be a very ethical thing to do, to dismiss charges you believe are illegitimate, right?
It's unethical not to dismiss them.
It would be unethical not to dismiss them, right?
Now the interesting part even about this is that we're debating this on laid back law. Laid back law. We're going to be on laid back law tomorrow. So we're debating this on laid back law. So we're like an hour in. They've already said the charges are corrupt, tainted. Joe, and I actually put the clip. Joe says tainted. So then, like an hour in, I said, so just to be clear, to wrap everything up, you guys are okay with tainted, corrupt, bogus charges being held over somebody's head to force them to do what you want them to do. And I said, I think that's the highest form of corruption, right? If the Justice Department is doing that, that's corruption. Joe said, oh, no. I don't think the charges are corrupt. I don't think they're bogus. I'm like, you guys literally just flipped. But again, I think it's them trying to just desperately win an argument versus trying to go through it and actually say, okay, are these points correct? Because I think he was at one point desperately trying to win an argument. But so he just flipped his position, thinking it would save what he was trying to say. But it didn't. It's obvious what he was doing.
Now, I obviously understand the mayor doesn't have any direct legal power, but notwithstanding, if I were Trump, what I'd want is for New York, obviously, to drop the criminal case against me. It's like does the mayor know a guy? Does the mayor know a guy that we can call and get the charges against me? As long as we're doing a quid pro quo, make my charge. I make your charges go away. You make my charges get away.
But you have to go to the governor for that, though. You'd have to go to the governor because the governor can dismiss the charges. The mayor can't. There's state charges. Trump
I know that.
State charges, yeah. So he'd have to the governor. Unless the mayor, can he put pressure on the governor?
I don't know what the political machinations are in New York.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough. If it was the governor, I would definitely do that. If I'm Trump, I'd be like, well, I'll dismiss your charges, you dismiss mine. That makes sense because I think Trump's charges are bullshit too.
Yeah.
Right? I think Trump's charges are bogus too. So I would definitely. I wouldn't think that was a corrupt quid pro quo. I'm like, you gave me bogus charges. I believe these charges are bogus. Let's just drop it all and get sanity again. But
something to look forward to tomorrow on Laid Back Law. More of this discussion. Maybe I'll come and I'll just bring a bowl of popcorn.
Yeah, well, what I think is that, don't get me wrong, I understand because there are a lot of people saying this is a good thing because they want Mayor Adams to help deport the illegal aliens, which I understand. But the law, for me, I don't know for anybody else, is a means test. It's not about the ends. It's about the means. How do we get to the ends? And if you don't get to the ends in the proper way, cases are dismissed. If you standing for issues, motions to dismiss, those were all process issues, right? You didn't do it in the right way. So if and in law, the ends never justify the means. The ends never justify the means. And in this particular case, it seems like a lot of our legal brethren in LawTube are saying the ends justify the means.
Tony Neves in chat says, to me, it's just standard New York machine and corrupt politics. I'm not mad about or upset about it. It's just normal. Everyone has dirt on each other. There's some truth to that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But again, it's we can't become the evil that we hate.
This is fair.
Because we become evil ourselves. If good starts doing evil things, it's not good anymore. It's evil. So I think that's one of the biggest issues. But we'll see. We'll see. So, but again, it's going to be contentious tomorrow because, I'm going to call. I got no choice but to call it. I'm like, this was bullshit. This was a lie. This is this. And I don't want to be honest with you, I don't think Joe's lying. But Joe, and I think the problem, I think a lot of with LawTube in general, is that we all, like for instance, when we were doing the Rekieta case, and Rekieta and Barnes were just kind of just bullshitting like everybody,
Viva
right?
Barnes.
Yeah, Viva, Barnes, and Rekieta, right? And they were saying things like, we don't know what we're talking about, Uncivil law as a patent lawyer, don't know, and those type of things. And I remember I even had a conversation with someone else. I was like, Barnes has never written a search warrant. Neither has Joe, and probably neither has Rekieta, right? I've written search warrants, we've done all this stuff. And I was like, if you just read the documents and see what's going on, you would know that. And myself and you also, you said the warrant was unattackable. We said that Nick would have to plead. We said this early. We said Nick is going to have to plead. All this stuff was going to, this was going to happen. And the fact of the matter is, the rest of the people lied to you. They lied because they wanted to help Rekieta, which I understand. That's a spin. But we're not in the business of political spin. We're in the business of legal analysis. And that's the fraction that sometimes comes to LawTube. Because other people want us to spin it a certain way. Now, we have our own biases, like obviously, I lean more toward Trump, right? I lean more toward the conservative side. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you because it's about the legal analysis. The legal analysis said this was a good deal. I would say it's a good deal, but the legal analysis, like for Rittenhouse, we all got Rittenhouse right because the legal analysis said Rittenhouse was right. It wasn't our personal feelings. And the same thing with Rekieta. The legal analysis said he was going to plead. Matter of fact, I even found the clip where I specifically said Nick is going to plead guilty to save his wife and girlfriend. You were on the stream when I said that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did. You know why? Because I'm a fucking prosecutor. I was a fucking defense attorney. I have thousands of clients. I know what the hell I'm talking about. They don't. And it's sad to say, but they just didn't. And now since we're at the end of this particular situation, it's obvious. But nobody gives you credit for being right. They only give you the slash for being wrong. So, and again, I don't want to make it seem like there's any sour grapes to it. But the fact of the matter, like even now with the Rekieta situation, in April he's going to be sentenced. But I think, unfortunately, I've watched like that one stream he did afterwards. It seems like he's still using. I don't know. Did you see that stream?
I mean, I've seen clips. I haven't really watched his content. Watching his downfall has been kind of painful, so I don't really watch his streams anymore. But sometimes I see a clip of him, and he doesn't seem at his best. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny because it seems like almost a totally different person.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of people don't realize the Nick Rekieta I think we know, the Nick Rekieta that we associated with is a lot different than the Nick Rekieta that's that
the whole thing is, but I mean, he did get a better deal than I expected. I didn't think he was going to be able to get a conditional discharge.
I told you, but matter of fact, I told you early. I said this case is a CD in the making. It's a conditional discharge with, but it was the first time drug.
Yeah, but he have to round so hard. I thought that they were going to spite him.
Yeah, but then at the end of the day, as a prosecutor, you're going to be like, you know what, we pay you. Because I've been in those situations before. So I'll tell you this. I was in a case where it was a simple freaking. Oh, read the super chat.
Tony Neve says, to me, Nick was always drawing aggro to himself to get the girls off. It's obvious he's going to plead, but also extended all options. It's the personality.
Yeah, but the thing is that like, so when I was a DA, I had this stupid case. It was the simplest case. It was a misdemeanor, nothing. I was offering a guy a conditional discharge to be a good guy for 6 months, but he wanted to fight it all the way through. So we go through all the motions, we go through all of this. He loses everything, and we're right there at the eve of trial. And he's like, I want the original CD deal. So I said, hell no, you baby, literally, you got me, I prepared for trial. We're going inside there and we're seeing this through. I'm holding your hand, we're gonna walk this through. I want a Jordan sale, bro. My boss comes to me and says, Nate, you're here for justice, not convictions. Give that man his CD. And you know what I did? I gave him a CD because she was right. I'm here for justice, not conviction.
Pansy.
But she was right. I'm here for justice, not convictions. Give him a CD. Even though because they paid me to do that, right? I was getting paid to do that by the government. And at the end of the day, if he wanted to walk it through, but the justice was giving me the CD. And I think that's what the Nick Recator thing was. You fight all you want, but at the end of the day, it's about justice. It's not about me personally. It's about justice.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you also have to give an incentive and for people to settle early to save you time, energy, because as a state, your incentives to bargain are energy, time,
yeah,
and also to some degree certainty.
Facts.
And so, but this case was pretty rock solid. They had everything they need. It's a simple case, simple drug possession case. You do it every day. You know, it's a simple. You can get out your coloring book and paint. And so the only thing else you really have to trade is your time, energy. It's like, well, if you're not willing to say because you effed around with me, the deal's no longer available, then what is the incentive to settle any earlier to avoid you from doing that in the first place?
That's true, but I think as a legal matter, again, you have the right to defend yourself.
How are you supposed to study con law 2 with both of us on stream? What subject are you studying on con law 2 right now? We'll just tell you what we think.
Yeah, con law.
Which specific part of con law 2 are you reading in any particular cases? Maybe we could riff on that for a while, and then we get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. That's kind of. I love con law when I was there.
Con law kicks ass. I love con law.
Yeah,
I am the LawTube guy when it comes to the con law. Respect.
Yeah, you are. You're definitely no doubt about it. No doubt about it. If something con law comes up, I look at your streams to see what the hell's going on. And it's just a fact. This guy's the best. You're probably the best, I think, appellate attorney and con law attorney that we have. Con law is constitutional law. Con law attorney we have. I honestly think Barnes is good, but I think Barnes
is wackadoo.
Yes,
Barnes is wackadoo because he's not grounded in any actual legal theory. He has ideas about what the Constitution should mean, like in his own head. These is what these clauses should mean, but they're not tied to the current state of the law.
Yes, but Barnes, I think Barnes thinks philosophical, right? This is what the law should be, right? Based on if he was judge. But he doesn't.
If Barnes were judge, he'd be bounded by precedent, and he should still be doing what the current state of the law is.
But that's his argument. He shouldn't. He's saying I'm not bound by precedent.
He wants to throw away all the common law tradition.
Yes,
that's exciting.
Like his argument on standing. He says standing is BS. But Barnes fails to realize that now Barnes will tell you, right? Standing is all BS. But any lawyer will tell you have to have standing to go to any court. It's what separates frivolous lawsuits. It honestly, too, if you don't have standing and bring a case in court, you could be sued personally as a lawyer, right? So standing is extremely important. Barnes doesn't like standing. So he'll argue against standing, saying it's all BS. But when he practices, he knows that you must have standing to bring a case. So I think what Barnes does, he relies on the ignorance of the audience. He relies on the people in the audience not being intelligent enough in that particular field, so he can just kind of tell you whatever he wants to say, and then people will believe it. But I think when it came to Recator, he wasn't able to do that because we're just, we're intelligent. We had that intelligence in the field. We had that experience. So he couldn't just lie to us and make us believe that. So
yeah, well, it was completely ungrounded La La Land stuff, and then some of the stuff he was saying on stream about some the situations he's been in the past were also pretty interesting. He's talking about he had a situation with a client in which the U.S. attorney accused him and his client of engaging in a criminal conspiracy to assassinate a prosecutor. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That really happened? That doesn't sound like a thing that would happen.
Yeah, yeah. But it may be like, to be honest with you, I don't even know if it's true or not. But what I do think, I think Barnes, what he does, and I think it's just so brilliant what he does, because again, it's about advocacy. He takes unrelated cases that make tangentially relate to what he's talking about and use it as precedent, right? And that's what he does. But Barnes, to be fair though, Barnes sometimes has fantastic insight on law, but most of the time, if you don't know what he's really talking about, you have to do your research, because Barnes will bullshit you and he will convince you. Like he did the Central Park Karen case. So Barnes represented Central Park Karen. And at the end of the case, now I used to be a prosecutor in New York. So I've written many of those same Central Park Karen deals. I've done them. You got a super chat.
Hey, Kurt and Nate, thoughts on the Baldoni versus Lively case, lol, including his 2.5 years subpoena of multiple phone records. That's expensive. And then can you define standing for us, especially since it was repeatedly used to deny Trump's 2020 election fraud claims? Okay. So why don't you take the second one first, and then I'll go back to Baldoni.
Okay, so what's standing so what's standing is that if you go to court, standing is can the court give you money to recover? So you need three particular things. You got to be the right plaintiff, right? So I had to be injured personally or something to me personally, right? That's the first part of standing. Number two, you have to be the right person I'm suing, right? I got to be suing the right person. So let's say Kurt punches me in the face and bloodies my mouth, and then I go sue this other guy who had nothing to do with it. There's no standing. This guy didn't do it. And then the third one is that the place that I'm in, the court, has to be able to give me the ruling the court gives me has to be able to help me the ruling for the court has to help me I have to be able to recover. The court has to be able to say, we're giving Nate that money, and the court has to have that power to order me to do something. So an example would be if something happens here in Texas, and I'm suing Kurt in Texas, but then instead of suing him in Texas, I sue him in Washington State. The Washington State court doesn't have authority over Kurt. So I'm in the wrong court. So I wouldn't have standing in Washington State. The Washington State court would literally say, you need to go to Texas, because Texas is where everything happens. The Texas court can actually force Kurt to do something. So that's standing. So standing is the foundational step in allowing a plaintiff to be able to sue the right defendant and the right court to recover. So Barnes, in a lot of the Trump cases, either the plaintiff wasn't the right plaintiff. So for instance, in one of the cases, there was a guy who was from Georgia, and I think he sued Michigan because he said the Michigan court, because I think he didn't believe the votes were counted properly in Michigan. So they said, well, you from Georgia as a plaintiff don't have standing to sue Michigan voting particular situation. And that's because you don't live in Michigan.
Or when the one states were suing the other state over the election, Texas sued Pennsylvania?
Yes, because they said Pennsylvania's election law was wrong.
Harmful to Texas, and they said there was no standing in that.
Exactly, because it's like, so that's usually the issue. If you're standing is right plaintiff, right defendant, and the right court. And that's so it's essentially a very simple aspect in law. And when Barnes says standing is BS, it just shows one of two things: his naivete to understanding what standing is, because standing is fundamental with any case. Just imagine you go into a court and you win your case, and they say, but guess what? We don't have any authority to make the guy actually pay you. It's ridiculous, right? You just wasted everybody's time. Or guess what? No standing, but you sued the wrong person, right? You just wasted. We went through a 6-week trial. What are you talking about? So that's what standing is supposed to stop, to make sure the right person suing the right person in the right court. Yeah, it was a long explanation, but that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, and so in answer to the earlier question about Baldoni, I've been covering that case in parts. I've been going through that lawsuit that Baldoni filed in his amended complaint. I think I've done 3 parts on it now because it was such a long complaint with the appendix. So I think we've read like 120 pages of that complaint. And so far it seems to me that Baldoni has the better end of the case compared to Lively. And so Baldoni is making a very credible case that Lively, in fact, hijacked his movie. There was recently a quote that was uncovered from Lively. I don't know when it was taken, when this was made. I think it was an older quote of hers, but I saw it resurfaced where Lively was basically admitting that she does this as her routine practice, right? It's like, yeah, no, they hire me for an actor, but I want to get more involved and I want to make the work mine. So, I basically hijacked the movie. She's basically admitting to doing this.
Well, she didn't. Well, from my understanding, the movie had a $25 million budget.
Yeah.
They were looking for a 23 because the person in the movie is supposed to be a 23-year-old, and so they hired Blake Lively, which is a big star, and usually her rate is $25 million, but I'm assuming she did it for a lower rate, right? And she was supposed to get an executive producer credit.
Yeah,
is that what happened?
Yeah, well, that's what she wanted. She wanted executive producer credit. They didn't want to give it to her. That was a whole thing. Like basically, she forced and blackmailed them, essentially extorted them by saying, if you don't do what I want, I'm gonna, ruin your movie and everything else, basically.
After she signed, and that's after she signed on to the movie, right?
Well, depending on, that was part of the thing, because she was actually performing in the work. She was doing work on the movie without apparently a signed contract for some period of time, which drove the lawyer in me batshit crazy.
That's insane, yeah.
It drives the lawyer in me batshit crazy, because in addition to other legal issues, it drives the IP lawyer in me crazy, because what happens in an IP is if you and I are joint authors of the work, regardless of our individual contribution, the law is we both get an undivided interest in the whole.
Yeah.
Okay? So even if you contribute 1% and I get 99% and I contribute 99%, in the absence of an agreement, we both get 100% of the work, which means that we each independently have an ability to sell the work. We each have an ability to perform the work, and our only obligation is to the other for any revenue we do receive. So if I can sell the thing for $10,000 and you say I want to sell it for $1, I can't stop you. You only owe me 50 cents.
Yeah,
I'm out because I can't sell. You can undercut me. It's a horrible, horrible deal. So she's performing on the work apparently without a signed contract. So the IP lawyer in me is going crazy. One of the emails we covered in the lawsuit was from Sony. The distributor from Sony's legal. Sony legal basically saying, what's up? Doesn't look like there's a signed agreement here. Anyone want to clarify that? Sony's legal is not happy on the page about the situation. So the whole situation looks pretty effed up in every situation. So it seems to me that Baldoni's argument is much stronger than Lively's.
Oh yeah.
And it seems to me that Lively essentially is a mini tyrant. And Baldoni's explanations, to my mind, make a lot of sense in terms of there being professional inquiries. For example, Lively said at one point, well, you asked me about my weight, or you asked me, my trainer, about my weight. Okay, so, and Baldoni basically says, well, I have a bad back.
You have the back problem.
I have a bad back. And so I need to figure this out because I need to train. So my inquiry is professional, right? I'm not asking your weight because I just want to know for the hell of it. I actually need to know for my job. So like there's a professional inquiry. Or like, just I came into your trailer when you were pumping milk, but that's because you invited me. You wanted me to recite lines, which incidentally, by the way, if it were me, I'd just be like, no, that's okay. I'll wait till you're done. But apparently it's not how they want to roll over there. But, so Baldoni's arguments look a lot better than that. So, yeah.
I think Baldoni, from what I'm saying, it seemed like Blake and her husband, Ryan, they had a lot more political capital in Hollywood. Yeah. And they were using that political capital to try to, because again, this is a B-line movie. It was $25 million budget, and you got the Deadpool Wolverine guy.
With Nice Pool.
Yeah, with Nice Pool. They're trying to push all this pressure on Baldoni. So, but I think Baldoni's doing the right thing. Put everything out and say, hey, this is what's going on. But what do you think about these two new women? They admitted the complaint. They have these two women who are saying Baldoni did what they would or supporting Blake Lively's assertion that he harassed her sexually.
Well, I haven't read that yet. I was still working through Baldoni's because it was so long. It was like 150 pages plus like 100 pages of exhibits. It was like 250 pages. I've been doing it in parts, so I haven't even gotten around to Lively's amended complaint. I'm behind. So like, what women? I don't know anything about this. So Lively's trying to bring receipts.
So she's got two women who claim that he was being weird with them or whatever. So those are the receipts she bought. But from me, my understanding about Doni's suit, it seems like very damning in terms of the pressure, because he puts a very, very simple timeline about the pressure. Ryan Reynolds getting involved. Then they have two cuts of the movie. So I don't know if you went through the two cuts of the movie where there was the Blake Lively cut.
Apparently she was doing her own cuts,
and
she's turned into an editor for some reason. Lost Chicago Girl gave $2 to say, but HRLY. What is that? But the HRLY. I don't know. For the 2.5-year phone record subpoenas. Thank you. My paralegal Lion wants to know. Yeah, I mean, that's not problematic because that seems to be the relevant time frame.
Yeah, 2.5, yeah.
I mean, that seems to be the relevant time frame for their messages and correspondence. So it doesn't seem like an unduly excessive request. So 2.5 years is probably
hourly
relevant in this. Oh, hourly. Yeah, the hourly for the 2.5 years in phone requisite subpoenas. Oh, you mean if they're actually turned over in terms of discovery and all that? Yeah, the someone's going to get paid for a lot of this.
But usually, just so everybody understands, nobody sits there and reads the 2.5 hours. You do keyword searches.
Just put it to Grok, baby.
Yeah, you do keyword searches. We were doing that 10 years ago. Like you would get a whole bunch of text messages and do keyword searches. You're looking for certain names, so you see who is texting who, and that's what you do. And a lot of people overstate discovery because they'll say discovery you get everything, but you don't get everything. Now, it's very, very narrow.
Now there was a question in chat a little bit earlier, and I'd love to see what your legal opinion on this is, because it's an unsettled question. I'd love to know what you think. The question of these district judges issuing these universal subpoenas, universal injunctions.
Okay.
Universal injunctions.
Nationwide.
So, nationwide injunctions. So, for example, the Trump EOs, right? Trump makes an EO. A district judge basically says, I'm putting a nationwide injunction on this. Now, my understanding of this is a relatively new phenomenon in law. These weren't really done until like the 70s at the earliest. And I also have a philosophical problem with it because the district judges are limited in their jurisdiction, right?
To the circuit.
There's 94 district judges because there's 94 districts. And there's more district judges. There's 94 districts. There's 94 districts. And so how is a district judge able to issue an injunction that goes beyond his jurisdictional boundaries is a little unclear to me.
Well, I think it seems to be a multifaceted question, but so generally it's number one, what type of case you're bringing. Are you bringing an as-applied challenge, or is you bringing it's as applied, or whether the actual if you're challenging the rule itself. So especially in administrative law, as applied is, so just so everybody understands, as applied is this rule as applied to this particular case in this particular circumstances, should I hold off? So the judge can issue an injunction in an as applied challenge, and that would be localized, right, to just you and your particular set of facts and your particular set of things. It wouldn't be a nationwide injunction. But if the plaintiff is now challenging the rule on a national level, in other words, this rule is bad, not as applied to me, but just overall, for instance, the birthright citizenship. This order is bad because it violates the Constitution. Then that challenge would, because now you're saying the rule is unconstitutional, and then you would have to hire a court. Then it wouldn't just be unconstitutional just in their look; it would be unconstitutional everywhere. So I think it's the type of challenge you're talking about, as applied to you particularly, and you see that in a lot of district courts. They'll say as applied. The Ali case is a big for the Ali case when it went to Supreme Court. They didn't want it to be precedent for other people, so they held it as applied. So it worked for him, but there was no precedent for everyone else.
Well, I mean, as applied doesn't prevent it from being precedential. It just limits it very much closer to the facts.
Exactly. So, and I think that's how the Supreme Court kind of dealt with the Ali situation. As applied to you, it's but not as everybody else. And I think that's the difference here. And don't forget though, also too, this is just not a Democrat problem. The Republicans do it too, because you do there's forum shopping involved with this too. Like, for
yeah, that's the bigger problem, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. So it's like, can I find a judge somewhere in one of the 94 districts? Can I find a judge who's going to issue this injunction, especially when I'm considering federal legislation? Like, yes, I think my odds of finding one somewhere is pretty good if I could just pick one out of a hat.
So just so everybody said, when I talk about forum shopping, so in New York, there are like hundreds of federal judges, right? Because there's like millions and millions of people. But if you come to, let's say, some place like Arkansas.
Yeah, there's some places with only one federal judge.
There's only one federal judge in that district.
Yeah.
So if that federal judge happens to be very Trump friendly or very non-Trump friendly, you'll see, like, I think there's one judge in Texas where like all of the challenges to the Biden administration happened in that court in front of that judge. And so generally, let me backtrack. So generally in the federal circuit, if you're in New York, there are a whole bunch of judges and there's a wheel that happens. So let's say a case comes in, you don't know what judge you're going to get. It could be the wheel. But if you go to one of these districts that only have one judge, guess what? You know it's going to that particular judge.
It's a very lame wheel.
So if I have millions and millions of dollars, I can go to a particular friendly judge who's in the one district, file my case, and I know he's going to see it, and I know the proclivities of it. And that's what the Democrats are doing now. Like, that's why the birthright citizenship, that's why it was in Washington, because they went to Washington and was like, hey, we got a friendly Democrat judge who believes that Trump is bad. We're going to get him. We're going to have the case heard in front of him. And that judge ruled favorably for the Democrats because, of our ideology. So that's generally what happens. But to your main point, though, I think it really depends, because if the judge states the rule is unconstitutional, just like even the state court, though, if a state court rules that something is unconstitutional, even though that same plaintiff or defendant can't then go to another state and ask that state to review that case. It would be binding on that.
Well, that's fair enough. That's res judicata as to that person. I get that. But I've had reservations on these nationwide injunctions for quite some time. This is not a new issue. I had these same concerns when I was Biden. It seems weird to me that an individual district judge, when their jurisdiction may not even cover their own state, because they're, some of them are split.
Or split among states.
So it's like, how they can issue an injunction that covers every state when they haven't been appointed to that kind of position seems very odd to me. So I have serious reservations about these global injunctions.
But in your scenario, the only court that would be able to do that would be the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And the Supreme Court is a court of review. Their original jurisdiction only comes from a particular set of cases, right? Between states and so forth, ambassadors and so forth. So the inferior courts, which are district court judges, they exercise that power through Congress, and that power from the Supreme Court, kind of constitutionally would give them that authority. Because let's say Congress just does one district court, that district court would have national authority. So I'm thinking, even though they separate it up, maybe
it should either be a court of appeal, or maybe it should be a 3-judge district court.
But even a court of appeal would still have your same problem.
I know, but at least it's less of a problem.
Yeah, because the district court was like the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit would, no matter what they rule, sometimes if they rule something, it would be a national ban. But unfortunately,
they only cover 3 or 4 states. So
they only cover but that would be the same issue. So
I know it's the same issue, but it's like a slightly better problem. Yeah, Marcus Ace Avocado in chat said, hitting equal protection affirmative action. Last year I listened to Uncivil's old Chevron vid. Learned that poop for nothing, I guess. I'm sorry you were forced to learn about Chevron.
I like Chevron.
I hate Chevron, and it's dead. Chevron is dead, and I'm happy. Do you see the smile on my face?
No,
see the smile on my face?
I agree. Chevron was not long for this world because essentially it took the power from the federal court. So just so everybody understands what we're talking about, Chevron was a case in which they essentially said the agency, a federal, let's say the energy, Department of Energy.
Yep.
They say if a case came up dealing with the Department of Energy, and the Department of Energy said that, A is equal to B. And then the court came up and the court said, hey, this A doesn't really equal B. The court would have to defer to the agency's interpretation of it because the agency had the technical ability, the scientists, the know-how. So federal courts were to defer to whatever the agency's ruling was. Now, that was Chevron. But now the Supreme Court was like, well, hold on, we gave too much power to federal agencies. If they're able to determine, if we have to defer to them for legal determinations when the judicial power is invested in a court, so we're going to take that power back from those federal agencies and not give them deference. So now the federal agencies have to explain why they're doing things, and that's what we have going on now.
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, if Chevron was still alive, a lot of these Trump things would be in no problem.
Maybe
Chevron, how could they not? All the administrative, like all the administrative stuff, there would be no argument. Give me Chevron deference. Department of Energy, Department of Education, any rules that they create, Chevron deference.
I'm so glad Chevron's dead. It can die forever. It can die in its grave, and I'll stab it again.
But now the issue, but Chevron essentially is back with not back, but because now instead of Chevron, you have kind of the unitary executive theory that's essentially, I think it's good law, but we're going to say.
Yeah, I would say. So equal protection, affirmative action. Well, I'm not sure why you're studying affirmative action. Affirmative action is kind of dead after the U.S. Supreme Court actions with respect to the colleges.
Yeah.
And although that decision has not been extended beyond that, the logic does. So, basically affirmative action is dead. So I'm not sure why you're studying that. Equal protection is fun. Equal protection basically makes sure that anyone who's similarly situated has to be treated the same, is the key in equal protection. Similarly situated people have to be treated the same. So if they're not similarly situated, they can be treated differently.
But
So
the tiers of scrutiny, that's the most important. If they're in law school,
well, but even into, we're not even talking about tiers of scrutiny at that point. We're just talking about like equal protection, because we're not talking about what does the First Amendment mean, for example, with respect to the tiers of scrutiny. We're talking about, given what it means, how does that apply to two different kinds of people? And we have to make sure that the people are similarly situated. For an example, and also similarly situated applies even if you don't have a protected class. So if you had, for example, a rule.
Did you say Caroline Products, right? Was it called Caroline Products?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. So if you had a rule that said, here's a tax for cars and here's a tax for, I don't know, buses.
Rational basis.
Rational basis, and they're probably not similarly situated because cars are different enough from buses. But if you said, here's a tax for red cars and here's a tax for yellow cars, you'd want to know, what is the basis of that? What is the basis to say that yellow cars are different enough from red cars to justify the difference? You'd ask the question.
But you really think? But I think equal protection, I think that falls under rational basis, because So from my understanding, equal protection is really class. Well, it's class based. So red cars, your red car, blue car example. I think that was still class rational basis. Because
as long as the rule was the same, I would agree it's rational basis. But if the rule's different, I still think equal protection pops in.
You think equal protection? I don't know, because remember, it's virtually there's almost no case that's got overturned by the Supreme Court for rational basis. Almost none, except for the rational basis. What they call a rational basis with bite when it comes to the LGBT cases.
Yeah.
So rational. I hate when we talk like this, because I feel like I don't want to lose the crowd. So the tiers of scrutiny we're talking about, there are 3 tiers. The lowest tier is called rational basis. Essentially, if the state said, if the Supreme Court says it's rational basis, it goes. The state can do whatever it wants.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have intermediate scrutiny, which is essentially gender-based, where
sex-based discrimination.
So and
remember, there are only 2 sexes.
Yes, there's only 2 sexes. But in those cases, for instance, the what's it called? Selective service was one of the biggest cases for that, where only men have to file for selective service and women don't. Well, that's because men and women are biologically different. So they look at under rational basis, which is the next level up. And then the top level is strict scrutiny, where if you're separating people based on skin color, or black versus white, then the government is under the highest amount of scrutiny, and generally they're going to lose. So now we're back at rational basis. Rational basis, the government wins like 99.99% of the time. Now, Kurt is making the argument that under that, now again, you also have to have 2. Now, Kurt's first argument is that you have 2 categories of people: people who drive red cars, people who drive green cars. And if you have laws that separate them differently, you have to have some rational basis on why you're making that separation. That's what Kurt is saying. So that's the rational basis. Now, again, like I said, 99% of the time, the state is going to be okay for rational basis, right?
Yeah.
99.9% of the time. If you guys want to look some cases.
Well, I mean, you do have to still come up, although the burden's on the person challenging it to show there's no rational basis. In that case,
correct.
In the higher tiers of scrutiny, it's on the government to show that the higher tiers of scrutiny are met.
And there's obviously other problems too, like whether it's a constitutional violation, whether
now speaking about taxes on cars. See, we're gonna do a segue. Speaking about taxes on car, let's talk about the New York congestion thing that the DOT recently did. So,
which I agree with.
So for those of you who may not necessarily be aware, the New York was imposed a congestion charge for entry into Lower Manhattan.
Correct.
And so basically, no matter how you wanted to get into Lower Manhattan, if you want to get there by car, you had to pay a toll. And the toll, incidentally, was fairly expensive. It's
$9 for car. It was going to go up to $15, but it started at $9.
So it's $9, but that's $9 per day.
Per car.
That adds up pretty fast. That's an extra $45 in my week, man.
Yeah, 10.
I can fill a tank of gas for that, even in this current economy.
What is it per month? Because it's 10, 20, that's what, $90 a month? Oh, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So this was initially approved by Biden's DOT.
Correct.
Under an exemption in federal law. So you can't put a toll on a highway except with the permission of the federal government. So there are tolls on some interstate highways, but those are with permission of the federal government because it regulates it impacts interstate commerce, right? So they got a waiver from the Biden DOJ, and the Trump DOJ, or the DOT rather, the DOT. The Trump DOT just recently tried to take it back, and New York is suing. Now, what I actually thought was really interesting in Trump's DOT's rationale for why they thought the program was illegal was they said that in every situation to date where there's been a toll, like if there's a toll in an interstate, there's always been a free option.
Yes.
You can always get off the interstate and you can go around and take the surface roads.
Correct.
Is it necessarily convenient? No, not necessarily. Presumably, that's why you want to pay the toll, because it's better quality. Correct. But it exists. It exists. So if you don't want to pay the toll, there is a non-toll option. Option. But the problem as the Trump DOT said, the problem is in New York situation that wasn't true. There was no way to enter Lower Manhattan without paying the toll.
Yes.
So the absence of the free option was what made it unduly burdensome. And I thought that was actually a really interesting legal argument by Trump's DOT.
I think it's interesting because I was arguing with someone the other day about this, about that same point. And I was like, well, so for those of you who live in New York, for watching, if you live in the New York area, there's no way to get into the island of Manhattan without paying. If you're coming from, let's say, south.
Yeah.
Because you got to go to George Washington. But some of the bridge, some tunnel, you got to pay. But so the argument was, hey, you can't pay to even get into Manhattan unless you pay $15. So there's BS. But that's not true. If you Google it, you say, let's not do the tolls, you can get, but it's going to take you 6 hours to go around and not take the tolls because you got to go up and around. There's a free bridge that can come down. So there is an option. So I think that's correct. Because don't forget, the federal government is in charge of keeping interstate commerce going. And if you have a toll, like $1 million toll, so people can't get in, that affects interstate commerce. That's why you need the DOT, Department of Transportation's waiver. Now, New York's argument is going to be obvious. It's going to be
reliance,
detrimental reliance.
Yeah.
They gave us the waiver. We put all this money and finance and infrastructure into this, and now they're taking back the waiver. So now it's going to be, it's the same argument that Dreamers made. Because Dreamers made that same argument. Yeah. You told us to do this. We did it, right? We detrimentally relied, and now you're talking about you're going to. So now you can't. So the Supreme Court said, but you can't do that. And the detrimental reliance argument, people forget to realize it's probably extremely powerful, because detrimental reliance means I'm harmed because I believe the government's lies. Jesse Smollett, that's a detrimental reliance claim. He pleaded guilty and paid the fine, and they said he detrimental, even though the lawyer was the wrong lawyer, he detrimentally
Bill
relied.
Cosby with the promise.
Cosby, detrimental
reliance.
So New York's argument is detrimental reliance. We relied on the government. If they said no, we weren't going to do this. We weren't going to pay all this money. And we've already been doing it. But now I think the argument's going to be how long. Well, number one, was that reliance reasonable? And then how long can the government now, since they've given you the waiver, can they take it back at any time? And I think that'll be the argument. Could it be a year? Could it be 2 years? What's the length of time? Can we just do it at a moment's notice? So they do have, I think, a legal argument. But I would ask you, what do you think about New York's detrimental reliance argument?
Well, I suppose I'd want to know exactly how much money they've invested in this would be the question of their...
You're talking about, well, I know they said there's something like $10, $15 million in putting up cameras and signs and all this stuff. So you're talking about a nice little chunk of money.
We could write them a check.
To pay them back? Well, if the government wants to do that, then I think you'd have it. But I don't think they're not going to write New York a $10 million check. That's even worse, right?
We'll pay them with some of that Doge money.
Pay them that Doge money back.
We'll pay them with some of that Uganda AIDS clinic money.
But I'm saying, but what do you think about their argument for the detrimental reliance? Because I'm assuming they're not going to pay it back. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head.
No, it's just an opinion.
But but I like to get the law right. I guess I slightly favor Trump's DOT on this because it's regulation of interstate commerce, which is a core federal authority.
Of course, yeah.
And it obviously puts a burden, particularly with respect to New Jersey, with respect to interstate commerce. I mean, it's directly implied by this thing, and it really hampers trade in a meaningful way. So I think I slightly favor Trump's DOT.
But then my only rebuttal to that would be the Dreamers case. You have this immigration is strictly in the federal government. Immigration this. These people are illegal, and you told them, you gave them a waiver. The Dreamers essentially have a waiver. You come forward, you fill out the paperwork, you have a waiver on immigration.
I have a dream. It involves flights.
I think it's 50-50. I think New York has even though I do prefer the Trump administration, because I think it's the same thing with electric cars. For those of you who don't know, California a couple of years back, maybe 10, 15 years back, did the same. The Department of Transportation had to give, labor, it was one of the departments in the federal government, had to give a waiver on emission standards in California, because California wanted to raise their emission standards from 20 miles an hour for a gap, 20 miles per gallon to something like 70 miles per gallon. And that would essentially force all car manufacturers in California to only sell electric vehicles. But the Bush administration denied them the waiver. So they tried to sue, and they said, no, the federal government. But it'd have been interesting if they gave them a waiver. That would have been interesting.
Yeah. $2 from Cat Toast. Thoughts on Karen retrial and federal appeal. Have you been following the Karen retrial at all?
I've not been following it at all.
I've been following this thing. I've been following this every step of the way. So I have many thoughts on the Karen retrial. My principal thought is the state has no case, and the evidence is a complete joke, and I can't believe that the state is bringing this case just from raw embarrassment. Wow. Because they screwed up the evidence. They don't have evidence logs. They collected the evidence in red Solo cups that they got from party supply shop, basically, that they didn't label. They they didn't put a lid on the blood they put in the Solo cups, that they put in a brown paper bag from a grocery store that they found lying around, that the lab themselves then didn't label. They don't know which cup they tested with the blood in it. And so it gets bad.
That's pretty bad.
It gets bad.
It's OJ bad.
It's bad. We got Trooper Paul with the crime scene spoke to him, and his interesting interpretations of physics. Proctor, the corrupt cop, who at this moment is having a hearing as to whether or not he'll continue being a corrupt cop or not, because he's so corrupt. Yeah, he's gonna get kicked out of the job, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
And so forth and so on. And the fact that we had to do the crime scene, we had never done a crime scene before in snow in Canton, Massachusetts. In 20 years, these are 20-year veteran cops. They had never done a crime scene in the snow, according to them.
In Massachusetts. It snows all the time in Massachusetts.
I would think.
Not one crime scene.
Apparently.
In a place that snows.
Yeah, that's why they had the red Solo cups, because they didn't have any containers, because they're not used to the snow. They didn't know what to do. They had to improvise.
Snow doesn't matter. There's usually evidence collection kits.
Yeah, they're not into that life.
Yeah, she's gonna be found not guilty. She should be found not. But there wasn't a mistrial at the beginning. Well, number one, wasn't her boyfriend a cop?
Yep.
That's the reason why they're retrying it.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they tried it in the first place against her.
Reason.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I think Karen Reed is incredibly not guilty, and I think that 8 members or 9 members of the jury apparently were ready to convict of manslaughter. Makes me question everything I ever thought I believed about the jury system.
Do you watch the trial?
Of course, I watched the trial.
I remember.
I did many videos about the trial. They were very popular on my channel. You should check them out sometime. Where I did many critiques making fun of the case because it was absolute nightmare fuel. So that's what I think about it. In terms of her federal appeal, I don't think it's going to work. So she's appealing on a habeas on the basis that the state Supreme Court got the decision as to whether or not she can be retried wrong. I don't think the state Supreme Court got the decision wrong. I think it's correct. Also, I think the federal court is unlikely to hear the case. There's this idea of abstention doctrine.
Yes.
Of ex parte Young being an example, but there are other cases. There are other cases beyond that where basically the federal government abstains in certain situations, even where they could. One of those being, for example, when there's a ongoing live criminal case in a state. They don't intervene in ongoing proceedings in a state level proceeding because separate sovereigns and respect and all the rest of it. Now, in Karen Reed's brief, she did cite some authority for the proposition that the court could theoretically intervene anyway, but I don't think they're going to do it. So I think
it makes sense.
I think the odds-on favorite is the court is going to decline to hear the case at all on abstention doctrine, and if they do hear the case, she's going to lose. Based on my best analysis of the relevant case law, I don't think the Supreme Court of Massachusetts got the law wrong on this area. I think it was the correct legal decision. So, by way of background, here's what happened. After the fact, 12 members of the jury, well, not all 12, but 5 members of the jury came forward and said that all 12 of them had agreed not guilty as to counts 1 and 3. Mm-hmm. But they had interpreted the instructions as such that they could not return a verdict unless they had a verdict as to each count. So they in their own head said, we're not guilty on counts 1 and 3, but they didn't communicate that in any way to the judge. They didn't send a note saying we had a partial verdict. They didn't ask. Apparently 2 or 3 members of the jury wanted to ask, but the 4-person, for whatever reason, didn't want to even ask the question, which seems odd to me, but okay. So there's this idea that, the members of the jury had in their own mind acquitted. But since that was not communicated or recorded or distilled in any way, I don't think the law supports that was, in fact, a not guilty finding. The form of doesn't matter, but it has to be something.
Yeah, well, you have to, the judge, the only way you're getting not guilty is the jury formally says the person not. So just because we thought they were not guilty, if you don't communicate that in a way that's lawful, because again, it's a procedural test.
Yeah.
So if you don't communicate that,
I'm also still confused as to how 9 members of the jury could be ready to convict on manslaughter when they were ready to acquit on leaving the scene of an accident. Because the allegation was she killed him by backing over him with her car. She backed over him, and that's what killed him. And therefore, she left the scene of the accident. So how are we 12-0 to acquit on leaving the scene of an accident where there's a death involved, but we still think, 9 of us are still thinking manslaughter? How's that work? I don't know.
Because maybe they didn't think it was an accident.
Well, they didn't think it was murder because it was 12-0 apparently to acquit.
That's true. Well, if it's manslaughter, it has to be an accident, right? That's true. Well, not even an accident. It's just because
leaving the scene.
Reckless.
Yeah, leaving the scene of whatever it was called.
I don't. But juries do strange things like for instance with the Daniel Penny case.
Yep.
They said because remember they did the top count first, and they were like it was a mixed verdict on the manslaughter in the 2nd degree. Then they go down to the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. He's acquitted. It's like, but hold on. Hold on. If he's not guilty of manslaughter, by definition, he can't be guilty of manslaughter.
Right. Because the greater includes the lesser.
Yeah, you can't.
The greater includes the lesser.
There's no way.
How are you acquitting on the lesser charge, but not sure about the greater charge? Because the lesser charge is an element of the greater charge.
Yeah. It's like so everybody understand. It's like robbery. Robbery has essentially two other elements. It has the theft and it has the force. So the assault.
I did it from a person, so I'm going to steal your thing. Aha! I've robbed Nate.
Well, that's a larceny. If you got to show some force. So you punch me. So you have the force and you have the theft. Now, generally, what us as prosecutors do, we do both. we'll charge you with the theft, we'll charge you with the assault, and then we'll charge you with robbery, which is the theft and the assault. So in the Daniel Petty case, they said, well, we don't believe some jurors said we believe he's guilty of the robbery and the theft. But then when they said, okay, do you believe he's guilty of robbery? They say no. Do you think he's guilty of assault? They say no. So it's like, if he's not guilty of either one, then how did you think he was guilty of robbery if you don't think he's guilty of the lesser charges?
And then for just the extra bit of fun, the federal government has said as a matter of, and they've spoken on this issue like 3 times because they've been asked about it multiple times. The federal government has said mutually inconsistent verdicts are okay.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So if the jury convicted of robbery but acquitted on the lesser count, the federal court be like, okay.
Which absolutely makes no sense because it's like I didn't steal anything,
right?
And I didn't assault him, but I'm guilty of robbery. It would make no sense. A lot of state courts, though, and that's what New York does it. So New York, when it says you got to evaluate the robbery first before we do anything else. So if the person's guilty of robbery, don't even look at the other 2 charges because obviously it's the same thing. But if he's not guilty of robbery, then you look at whether he stole something and then whether he was assaulted. So that's the way New York does it, which I think is a better way. So,
well, law gonna law. So yeah, I don't think her federal appeal is going to work because I don't think it's legally tenable, and I hope she's acquitted because the case is BS. But it gives me another chance to cover it, and I'll probably try to attend the trial at least one day in person because that sounds like a fun thing.
Where's
to
it at?
do.
It's in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
Shit, that's a long little.
We're gonna go on a road trip.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be going to Dalton to go see if
we can swing by Dalton on the way to Massachusetts.
Oh, do you want to come to Dalton with us? Eric, and
we can swing by Illinois on the way to Massachusetts. No problem.
Yeah, because they're going through the mayoral election right now to see if they can kick out the super mayor. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be a great road trip. We'll tell stories.
I don't know about going from Illinois to. I'm a plane fly. Well, now all the planes are falling out the air like they're going crazy. And I don't know if you can blame DEI now because DEI all like 8 planes fell out the air. I was like, I don't know if
well, it must be DEI. It was Canadians.
Yeah, like what the hell? Don't get me wrong. I hate DEI, but it's like everything being blamed on DEI. I'm like, I don't know, 8 planes. I think and I'm just gonna say it. I think if the federal hiring freeze on air traffic controllers may have a little bit to do, especially if you're saying you need 3,500 more. And the funny part about it is I think both sides sometimes miss it because in terms of air traffic controls, it's like 3,500 more air traffic controls needed. But they DOJ froze all hiring at the federal level. So they can't hire. So essentially they're understaffed. But the DEI policy said we want to hire more Black and minorities and women. And we're going to put the white guys and put them back. So now there's a lawsuit. We had all these white guys saying, hey, we wanted to be air traffic controllers, but they said we can't be air traffic because we're white. Now, I think that's just as bad as saying they can't be air traffic controllers because they're Black. But it's funny because that's the way I think DEI messed up, has corrupted the whole situation. So in part, I do think DEI has something to do with it. But I think it's more the federal hiring fees. If you don't hire more people you need, then you're going to have a problem. So,
Southern Magnolia joins the higher membership tier of the Uncivil Posse. We do appreciate your higher membership tier donations. It allows me to eat food. I appreciate you allowing me to eat food. Paul F. gives $5 to say, did you see the jury interview and why some jurors voted guilty anyway? I started to do a reaction to part of that video, but people weren't really interested in my reaction for some reason. So I did a stream where I tried to do a react to that and people weren't watching it. So I just killed the stream and deleted it. So I haven't watched it, but I'm under the understanding that the jurors basically said that they basically ignored the defense experts and then whined about why there weren't more experts.
Yeah.
And basically thought the defense didn't prove their case and stuff.
And that's because I think that, but that a lot of these cases that are lost by the defense are the defense not educating the jury onto their role. I don't got to prove that. That's why you'll see a lot of. I don't got to prove nothing. I ain't got to prove nothing. It's them that's got to prove it. If you go back to that jury room and says the defense didn't prove something, then guess what? You're talking. That's not legally. It's wrong. It's the wrong way of thinking. Because I don't have to prove anything. But sometimes defense attorneys get up there and they try to prove a case and then forget that you put yourself in a bad position because trying to prove someone's innocence is essentially impossible.
And Honest Outer has been a member for 25 months, and Lugmeister has been a member for 24 months. Look at all these people. Such long-term uncivilians. So many of you in chat have your names in white, and I'd love to see more of your names in green. And you can get that by hitting that beautiful, beautiful join button for only 99 cents a month. It's literally as cheap as I'm allowed to make it. And you can become a member of the Uncivil Law channel. What do you get for that membership benefit? Well, you get some cool emojis. You get your name in green. You don't have to obey the time limits of the chat when it gets busy. You also get behind the scenes member content, like when I did a stream earlier today that I made members only because it kind of derailed. The stream derailed, so I made the stream members only because it's kind of like, eh. But if you want to watch the stream derail, you can do that. You can tune in and watch that beautiful, beautiful derailment footage for 99 cents a month, and it's available to you. So, plus you get that warm feeling in your heart that you're just a little bit better than other people who are not members because they did not hit that beautiful, beautiful join button, and they're not as good as you. Frederick York became an uncivilian. Tracy D became an uncivilian. Thank you very, very much for your continuing contribution. Someone asked, what should we do to support you on locals? Should we move support to YouTube? Yeah, if you're on locals, yeah, move the support to locals. Or you could also, if you like, support me on Coffee, which I will give you the link for because it allows a monthly spend. Where is my thing? What screen am I on right now? I'm on full. Okay, where is my thing for Coffee? Oh, wow. How did that get flipped? It's backwards. It's upside down. Yeah. There we go. You can also support me at coffee.com/uncivil law if you like. And there's a way to do monthly memberships on there. And then I get a much bigger cut because YouTube takes 30% and Coffee takes like 5%. So I get a much bigger cut of your donation if you're interested in donating through that. So that's also an option. And we do appreciate your continued support.
Well, I'm gonna have to get out of here because it's
You
about
leaving?
that time. Yeah, I gotta go. I got kids and a wife and all that. I mean, they miss me. They miss me. I don't know why they miss me, but they miss me.
Yeah, I don't know why they miss you either.
Now, I do want to say one thing before we end the stream, which I'm assuming we're going to do in a couple of minutes, is that the lawyers that we spoke about earlier, Barnes, Joe, Viva, Nick, and all those guys. To be honest with you, I still appreciate them. I still think they're great people. I just disagree with sometimes the political spin that they try to put on issues that are clear. And I do understand. We live in a very politicized time, right? And the Democrats, they're calling Trump a Nazi and all that stuff, which I think is ridiculous. And if you watch my content, you know how I feel about Trump and the Democrats. I think the Democrats are disastrous, and I'm actually pretty happy that Trump won. But I think on the opposite end, I think we have to be honest and hold, no matter who's in power, you got to hold them accountable. And I hope the other attorneys do that. But again, these are just disagreements on opinions. So we'll see how it all works out. But Joseph, if you want to come see us tomorrow at Laid Back Law, because we'll be battling it out about who's right about the Mayor Adams. Because again, the Mayor Adams thing, I think it's just clear cut.
Don't let Joe steamroll you though, because he can do that sometimes.
He tries, but I was push back. I love what he does when we'll sit there. Remember, we'll sit there and let Joe say his whole thing for like 20 minutes. We'll wait. We'll sit there. We won't say anything. Let him get his whole thing. Then I'll say, okay, Joe. My response is, hold on, name. I'm like, What are you talking about? I just started speaking. Let me finish what I'm saying. And he wants to cut it every 5 seconds. We're like, Joe, let me at least finish saying what I'm saying. I love when he does that, but that's Jada.
I hate when he does that. It pisses me off.
It does.
I'm not gonna lie. It pisses me off hard.
It does all the time.
I've been sitting here waiting for you to end courteously, and then I speak, and then you interrupt me. That's incredibly.
Right after the first sentence,
I'm really pissed.
Yeah, right after the first sentence. But again, that's because you're trying to push a narrative, and if you say things that go against the narrative, it blows everything up. So, it just is what it is. But you can't take any of this stuff personally, and I hope nobody else takes any of this stuff personally, because I still think these guys, even for Barnes, even though I think a lot of this stuff is just kooky, wacky, and just wrong, there's some things that he does say that's incredibly informed. So, and I think that's what you have to do. You can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You kind of have to take every particular claim on its own. Like that's what we do as law. You take every case as it is, and you evaluate those facts independently and see where they come out. You know, it's no matter what anybody says. So, and even with me, I always tell people, don't believe what I say. Fact check me, do it, and if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, because you helped me. You helped by telling me that I'm wrong and showing me the way I'm wrong. You helped me. You helped me grow as a person, and you helped me not go around looking like an idiot. So I appreciate it.
All right, cool. All right, well.
Are you going to keep the stream going?
No, I'm going to.
You're going to talk to the crowd.
I was just saying, thank you, Nate, for coming. I'm going to end the stream. Nate and I have been having fun. Let me know if you want to do this some more. We can have some more bro hangouts. But for the moment, I've been Uncivil Law. This guy's been Nate, the lawyer. And we'll talk to you next time. Hope you guys.